So, what do you get when you cross a Mons game with a robot game? I'll tell you what you get: Medabots. Yes, Medabots is indeed alive and well, going strong to this current day, with a massive games compilation coming to Switch this year and a new original title as of 2016, Medarot Girl's Mission, where you play a visual novel dating strip. What did you do to Medabots, Japan? Repressing that as hard as I possibly can. At least Medarot 9 from 2015 looks like it was a good game. It's a shame, really, as this was really popular among my friends, and this franchise more or less vanished from the West after 2003's Medabots Infinity on the GameCube. So join me for a closer look at the first game of the franchise that we got here in the West. Greetings everyone, this is the hipster Snek. Today, we look at Medabots, the 2002 Game Boy Advance RPG title, split between two versions, Meda-busy and Rokusho editions. The story in each remains the same between their versions, just that the medals you'll find will differ, as will some of the parts, so your customizations will vary accordingly. As a bit of trivia, this game is actually a Super Game Boy remake of Medarot 2, which was called Medarot 2 Core in Japan, and is the only installment of the numbered Medabots games to even get a Western release at all. Based very, very loosely on the anime and some of the manga upon that which is also based, we play as a young boy named Iki, who dreams of one day having his own Medabot and becoming a champion, a world-renowned Medafighter, the name given to a human who commands their Medabot ally in battle. Before I get any further, let's actually discuss the Medabots themselves and the event you aren't familiar with the source material. Medabots are robotic AI companions who live and work alongside humankind in pretty much every capacity. Medabots are created by the Medabot Corporation by one Dr. Aki, who we'll come to know over the course of the game, and are made of Medabot alloy, which appears to have some self-mending property to it, hence that they can engage in firefights with live guns, bombs, missiles, lasers, acid, and more, and just get up for the next fight in line. Medabots are comprised of three major sections, the first being their tin pet, or the skeleton of the Medabot. This also determines the Medabot's gender. Don't ask me how that works, it just does. Next are the Medaparts, which are like the muscles to continue the medical analogy. These determine the weapons and capabilities the Medabot has physically. And lastly, the most important piece is the Medabot's metal, a tiny chip which sets into the robot's back and from which the meta in Medabots and meta-narrative finds its origin. Little joke there. These are Medabot's heart and soul. The personality and aptitude of the bots are all found in their medals. And there's nothing Medabots love more than going head-to-head in robattles, yes, seriously, where each contender offers up a spare Medapart as ante to the victor of the match. This is how you'll build your own team of Medabot allies over the course of the game. But we'll get to the technical nitty-gritty soon enough. First of all, the game looks pretty good for being a remake of a Game Boy Color game. Using the anime-esque stylings and the overall simplistic art style common in the series, it uses simplified sprites for the overworld, with most Medabots being represented on the overworld using a generic robot sprite, and portrait art for any major characters like our protag and some Medabots that will become important as time goes on. In battle, meanwhile, every Medapart is rendered in loving detail, as you get to set them however you'd like. As an aside, as this is something I literally only noticed when my original run of the game was almost over, when you select a Medapart, and if you have a magnifying glass and squint really hard, you might notice that certain enemy Medaparts will start pulsating in response. This means that's the part you're targeting. No, the game does not draw your attention to this. Yes, knowing this will make things a million times easier for you when you're not wasting your head part usage and hitting enemies in their legs, for instance. It's a small graphical detail, one that's easy to overlook, but one that will be pivotal in making the game that much easier for you to actually understand what's happening in any given fight. Audio-wise, the game could be better, but you could also do worse. The music is serviceable, and the sound effects are quite punchy. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I don't miss the Game Boy Color aesthetic, and despite being a Game Boy Advance title, it looks and sounds like it's a Game Boy Color counterpart, unless you're presently in a Robattle, in which case the sound effects do help make up for that. The rattling guns and slashing swords are quite cathartic, but this was all done better in Medabots AX, and that's a review for another day, so that's all she wrote about the sound. Mechanically, Medabots is an RPG, and the version differences rear their heads nigh immediately as you'll get the Medabot parts and medals for the version-specific Medabot out of the gate. Meda-busy is a rhinoceros beetle-type shooting attack Medabot with reliable guns on each arm and a heavy-hitting seeker missile loaded onto his head. Rokusho is a stag beetle-type melee Medabot with a head part that increases accuracy for his sword and hammer arms. Oh yeah, let's touch on that real quick. In battle, your Medabots move from their side of the field, always the left-hand side while you're playing story mode, and they'll race to the center line. The first Medabot to hit it gets to input an attack command first, before going back to the start and doing it again, like a relay race. Medabots who have leg parts that are fit for the terrain the battle's taking place in will naturally gain a speed advantage and may even get to go multiple times before the enemy finishes their relay. When executing an attack, you can choose to use one of your arm parts, most of the time having unlimited uses, but that can vary, or you can choose to use your head part, which will always have limited uses for special abilities, or you can opt to defend, or even charge your Metaforce. The Metaforce is a special ability which will be unique to each medal, which allows them to use some sort of big technique that builds up over time. The Rhino and Stag Beetles are different types of big attacks and are consistently useful from start to finish. Regardless of the state of arms and legs, if a Medabot's head is destroyed, that Medabot is out of the match. And if a leader's Medabot head is destroyed, then it doesn't matter how well off anyone else is, it is done for that fight and that team loses. So for obvious reasons, you don't want this happening to your leader. Taking all that into consideration, you'll build a team of up to 3 Medabots. Bearing in mind that some prompts in the game will change things like which medals you get or whether you get a male or female tin pet at certain points, you may have some growing pains as you go. You see, medals level up in traditional RPG fashion by gaining experience every time they Robattle. In fact, at certain level intervals, which will vary by medal, they'll even transform the symbol found on their backs, a phenomena called metamorphing. Surprise, surprise. This greatly bolsters the medal's stats and even unlocks additional possible Metaforce powers if the medal has them. This is the sort of game wherein, if you're not running regularly, yes, you're grinding. So you might be surprised to learn this game has an L-shaped difficulty curve. By that I mean, the single hardest moment in this game is found in its opening few minutes. You'll play a single freebie battle against Erika, which is easy enough regardless of the version you're playing. But then you'll have to do a series of 3 battles against a local gang known as the Screws, and you have to win all 3 in a row with no opportunity to save in between them. The first battle against Cyan Dog is not too terribly difficult and you should deal with him handily. Then the battle with Totalizer can be tricky if he consistently defends against your attacks, but generally speaking this is not unreasonable. And then the game takes the kid gloves off, because this comes in the form of Peppercat, whose sole mission in life is to make you replay these 3 battles as many times as humanly possible before it's even possible to grind. Because both her arms have an electrical effect that absolutely ruins your action time bar, dragging your Medabot to a crawl for her to rush back and do it again, and again, and again. She can literally just kill you via bad RNG. Since this game can be gotten on the Wii U eShop, the use of save states is not frowned upon. The best bet, if you're a Rokusho, is to use your head part to raise your accuracy and hope your sword arm can end it. If you're Meda-busy, use your seeker missiles and, well, hope for the best. Once you break through that particular wall, you'll find the game itself is generally not that difficult. And here's a free tip. Anti-sea and anti-air meta parts are incredibly powerful, and you'll start getting them around the time the game gives you your second tin pet. It's not uncommon for your first allies to be absolute Frankenbots, but their utility is undeniable. Like my female Medabot I assembled using some early game anti-sea parts in an area where sea parts were fairly common, and she ended up becoming a one-bot wrecking crew, easily outpacing the offensively oriented Meda-busy in terms of raw damage output just because of that one quality. And since the Medabots you'll encounter in random battles will be fairly samey depending on the area that you're in, it won't be too difficult to assemble a team that's able to handle whatever challenges you encounter. This is assisted somewhat due to the fact that there are many games where you'll do things like relay races where your Medabot's legs are the primary determining factor in your success rather than outright offensive ability. Were I to issue critique, well, the game does have a tendency to overstay its welcome. There's 2 or 3 moments in the plot where the story really could have come to a close and been completely satisfying hours before it actually does. This is compounded a bit by the above. The encounter rate in the game is really high, and the XP payout is just a hair short of what I feel like it ought to be. So you'll find yourself with an excess of spare parts, which you can sell off in order to buy others at different stores in the game, but you'll soon have everything you want and need and just be sitting on a mountain of scrap metal you have no use for. It feels really padded out in places, and vehicle Medabots, special bots that you can ride around on for different effects, eat entirely too many slots out of the max total of 9 Medabots we can have in our arsenal. I think if the game had a bit more confidence in its overall design and let the player have a bit more freedom in terms of customization, it would be all the better for it. But overall, I feel the game's pretty solid. It appeals to a particular technophile part of my brain, being able to build my own robot army however I see fit. And the RPG elements are fun and intuitive. It's an immensely entertaining game with some truly funny bits of writing and intriguing character growth at times. It's certainly nothing Shakespearean, but it's worth seeing through to the end anyways. And that's the final word on this obscure title. This has been the Snek, bringing another underloved game to light. Were you already a Medabots fan? What medal was your favorite? Leave a comment down below telling me. Mine's actually the mermaid medal. Has saved my bacon more times than I can count. If you liked what you saw today, definitely hit the like button, and for more like this each week, hit the subscribe button too. For more general foolery out of me, you should hit up the Tomodachi Bros podcast and YouTube channels and our other social media. All links in the description of every video, every time. And join me here every week for more obscure reviews, indie excellence, and more. And I will see you there. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you're still watching, I just wanted to let you guys know that I wanted to extend a big thank you to all my viewers for helping us recently break the 250 subs milestone. That is crazy to me. The fact that we did it so quickly is all thanks to you and you guys supporting me, and it means the world to me. So I want to give a little something back in return. Between now and the time we hit the 500 subs mark, both on my YouTube discussion page tab and over at my Twitter at @hipstersnek, there is now an open AMA, or Ask Me Anything, where you guys can ask as many questions as you want. When we hit the 500 subs mark, I will sit down, make the video, and answer every question that doesn't get me banned off YouTube. The posts are already there and pinned, awaiting your input. I'm curious to see what you guys are curious about. So I'll see you at the 500 subs mark and with all the answers that you've been craving. And I will see you there.